That's what made me think I need to go into maybe a different route. Now, I think to be a really great investor, you need to have some in every bucket. And I've got bucket three. I've got lots of syndications, lots of multifamily real estate going, and I love that. I'm so thankful for that.
Welcome to the Path to Passive podcast, where we talk about building wealth and empowering lifestyle through commercial real estate investing for tech professionals. I always wish that other tech professionals reaching financial freedom had documented their journey along the way, so I'm doing it for the rest of us. Join us as we explore stories, many failures, and lessons learned along the way. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. Maria, so good to have you on the show here. We've known of each other for a couple of years now. I think we first met each other at I think this was like 2021, one of our first multifamily seminars, multifamily conferences, and it's cool to stay in the same sphere and finally get here on this podcast. So thank you for being here, Maria. Please introduce yourself, talk about what you're up to right now, and we can kind of peel the onion back to get to know you a little more before we talk about what you're doing here professionally.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited. It has been way too long since I've gotten to sit down with you. But like you said, my name is Maria Marks. I got into this probably around the first time I met you. And now I'm more focused on short-term passive income, which is more for funds. And that's kind of what I'm switching to. So I'm doing a raise for a fund right now, which is so exciting and different. Not that I don't love syndications and multifamily. I still love those because I've got lots of those properties still going strong. It's another form of real estate and another way to diversify your portfolio.
Yeah, awesome. But you didn't start here, right?
No.
This is yeah, it's cool to get the snapshot in time of what you're up to right now. And like you talked about, you kind of teased a little bit at multifamily and doing some syndications as well. But where did you start? It was a healthcare, right?
Yes, it was. So nothing related to real estate, like not even finances. Like before real estate, I probably wouldn't have any idea what it meant to invest in real estate. And the first time I met you, the first event we were at, I actually had an index card, like with all these notes about what
No
real
way.
estate was, the definitions, I knew how to calculate the cap rate. I had it all written out. It was like this little cheat sheet with me.
That's awesome.
It's been a pretty interesting situation and just kind of been able to learn from that. But going from healthcare to helping people invest their money and grow passive income has just been such an interesting transition.
What
Not anything I
was
thought I would be doing.
What was that aha for you? I mean, people get into real estate. You've heard this story
Hmm.
hundreds of times, if not thousands at this point,
Yeah.
um, where it's, people get into real estate, think about, well, real estate, getting a rental, doing something is, how I buy once and get checks forever. What was that kind of aha for you?
There were a few, and they're not that exciting. Like they're not that happy of events. But my first one was with the passing of my father-in-law. He passed away 6 days after I got married, and it was such a shock to me. Like, oh, this is real. Like things could happen, and I have no idea about our financial life right now. And I just got married, and what if I lose my husband? Like I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first straw. And then the second straw was when I went to go talk to some of my friends about investing. They happen to all be women. And when I went to go meet with them and talk to them about this new opportunity, they just said, we're going to let our husbands take the
No
reign on
way.
this. It's like, oh my gosh,
No.
really?
Oh man.
Guys are strong, powerful women. Like we can do this.
Yep.
You don't need a man to do this, make these decisions. Oh, so sad. So like at that point, I was like, I am never going to rely on someone else to tell me how to invest my money. I want to learn it. I want to understand it. And I'm so thankful that my husband showed me this path, but I'm going to run with it and know why I'm investing
Yeah.
and how
Take
I'm making
ownership, right?
money. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I mean, there's the realities of life definitely kind of wake you up. I've it had some similar things along the way, just kind of jolt you, just be like, you need to have a plan. No
Right.
one's coming to help you. You need to have a plan.
Ooh, I know.
And so, did you guys do any single family stuff before you
No,
went into multifamily? Because
no,
that's where
we
I met
just
you.
right. So we just jumped from no investing in real estate to like, let's go all in with multifamily. And it was probably the weirdest way to jump in to real estate. Most people start smaller,
Yeah,
single family. No, I think I will go head on in and just really figure it out somehow.
yeah,
And thankfully, there are people that we could invest with. So we invested in the groups that we started to join. So invested with Grant Cardone, we invested with other groups that we're learning from. And so those passive investments started to really make it sense why we're doing this. Once you get your first check back, it's not,
yeah,
maybe it's not as much as you think, but still, get your first
yeah.
box of money, as
It's
they're
like it's
calling it.
real, right?
Yeah,
Proof of
it's, oh,
concept.
this is not a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and also a few things of like, why didn't we know about this before?
Oh my gosh. I get so frustrated every time I think about this or every time I meet someone who's so much younger than me and I'm thinking, "Oh, you're just so lucky. You know now."
Yeah, definitely. So those were like LP investments, limited
Yeah.
partnership investments, syndications, all multifamily to start.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of setting up for a question later on, but how did these go? You were talking about so these were mostly value add kind of
Right.
LPs at first, right?
Mhm.
These were, if I can imagine, probably around end of 2021, start of
Yeah.
2022, where
Yeah.
you may have gotten some returns back, but later on,
Yeah.
maybe not as much.
Yeah, I mean, you get started with the initial like, "Oh, wow, here's my first check," and then they start to slow down.
Yeah.
But you have to know the end goal. And if your goal is just that passive income that comes every quarter or every month, then maybe long-term holds is not for you. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what we started to figure out. And it's a learning process. When you jump in, you're so excited, you're so ready for this. And then when it takes, 9, 10, 12 months to get your first check
Yep.
back, that's hard. And it's hard to explain to people because you're so excited. And then there's your friends and family who's like, but you should be making so much money right now, right? This is what you
Right.
said. You wanted us to join it. I'm like, okay, but you have to wait.
I know. It
Ugh.
seems so counterintuitive,
Oh, I know.
right?
Right.
Especially when you're excited. So these are syndications, value add stuff. So it did, the business plan has to get implemented. Talk about
Oh, yeah.
like what were, and I try to express this pain, this aspect to some of my colleagues and investors too. Like why the wait, Maria? Like it's like,
Oh,
well, there's a 5-year hold or something like that. That's more time than I've ever spent with other investments. I'm not allowed to touch its money, like, but I have to wait this amount of time. Like, why did people have to wait? Why did you have to wait for you to get investments back?
Oh, I love this question because I'm a type A person. So for me, like it doesn't make sense to get all your money back at one time. So like I'm excited, but I also have to see what's going on. So like I have to see the progression. Even as a limited partner where you really don't have much say into what's going on in the property, but I want to be able to drive to the property. Want to be able to look it up on Google Maps, and I want to know that it's a thing. So like that right in itself was why real estate was so exciting to me. Putting my money in the stock market, while the
Mhm.
stock market is great, and I don't want to say anything negative about alternative forms of investing, it freaks me out. It's
Mhm.
not for me. I can't see it. I can't go to it. I can't look at it and say, "Oh, there are doing something with it." So even though I'm not getting a return yet, I do know something's happening in the
Right.
property. So that was the big shift for me. And then to explain that to other people, I think was hard. And I came into this thinking I would be an asset manager,
Hmm.
which is kind of funny because you know this is what I want. I'm like, I can do this. I can project manage people. I can make sure everything's going. No, I'm not that type of person. It moves way too slow for me. I can't. Like there is not. It's not what I wanted to do.
Got it.
So
Got it.
after
Well,
that first property, I was like, maybe not.
yeah. Everyone kind of thinks that when they first get in, right? But I'll go to that in a second. So um, you were talking about like the alternative all assets,
Hmm.
investing, everything else
Yeah.
that's not on some kind of index or something that people could
Hmm.
invest on. I wouldn't say over the internet, but because we can do that now too through
Right.
portals, etc. But the more traditional investing, right? Um, but you were also talking about things that you can drive to. Are you talking
Yes.
about? So you're in Dallas, and
I'm actually in Indiana.
oh,
So none of the properties that I own, that I invest in, or that I am a GP on are actually in Indiana. So I mean, I do drive after getting on a plane, but
okay.
you can drive to them.
That's right. That's right. My mistake. I've always seen you in Dallas, and so
No, you're good.
that's where I was pegged.
That's the thing. You always see me other places, but then I end up in Indiana. So it's fine.
Well, see, the point I was gonna ask there is, um, and I think you kind of answered it, but give me
Hmm.
on your thoughts there to expand on that. Then is where to invest. You're talking about some place you can drive. It sounds like some place that you can go and look and
Oh
see
yeah.
that the property exists versus not
Yes.
having to necessarily invest in your backyard.
Right. It's a huge thing that people want to invest in their backyard because they want to, maybe they're probably more into being there every day than I am. But I like to go where the location is the best. And that was the first thing I learned at my first real estate conference is location. You can't pick up a property and move it to a different neighborhood.
Hmm.
As much as I would love to, I can't.
Yeah,
So
we all would.
as as long as it's in a good location, you can build from that. You can't make it better if you're already in a bad location. So I tried. I really tried with my husband and my brother-in-law to do a property in Indiana. But it wasn't it wasn't going to happen with the market at the time, especially now it's
Yeah.
not going to happen. And you have to understand where it's going to be the best investment return for your investors. So Indiana might take a little bit longer to get a double multiple for your investment.
Hmm.
And who wants to wait 10 years when they can do it in 5?
Yes. So location absolutely matters. You're talking about, trying to make it work in Indiana, but it's really
Yeah.
just the math, right?
It really does.
It's really just the math. I love, I didn't know that you were the type A personality. So, good to, again, good to have this
Makes
conversation.
sense.
Um, I mean, I've been in tech for 15 plus years, so it's the details do matter.
They
Um,
do. It really does. It does affect it. It affects the property. And I mean, I've said this to multiple investors. It doesn't matter what the property is, if it's 30 units or 300 units, you can't change the location and you can't change the team that's managing it. So you can put paint on it, you can put lipstick on a pig, as
yep.
I've heard other people say, but you cannot pick up the property and move it or change the team that's managing it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you can have in metro areas. I'm thinking of those in like downtown Seattle, where
Yeah,
you can have the crappiest looking houses, but they're 1.5 million, 2 million, just
exactly.
because it's the land. It's not the house;
Hmm.
it's the land.
Yep.
It's the location. So you were talking about you can have you know, a less than great or a good property to bad location.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter about the team as well. I'm curious about your thoughts here about why asset management wasn't for you. Talk about what that is, how that fits on the team, because this is something I hear all the time. People will come to me and say, "Hey, Steven," or "Hey, Arita," because I get called my last name a lot. It's just I'm looking to do my I want to do a flip. I want to do
Mhm.
like a remodel. I'm like, okay,
Right.
it's very involved. They want to do something like that and really be in the meat of it, because you can think of healthcare professionals who are really smart, and think of tech
Mhm.
people, lawyers, engineers, doctors, whatever, who are like, I'm smart, I can figure out this game. Yeah,
Yep.
other people do that, but I'll figure it out. So talk about how asset management fits on that team, and who it probably isn't for, and maybe who it is for.
Yeah. Asset management is probably the most important part. I mean, we all have, like, I raise capital, so we have all of that, the flashiness of raising capital. But when the deal is done, like the raise is done and we've moved into asset management phase, that's when everything really starts. I
Mhm.
mean, if the property isn't performing, you're not getting the returns, you're not getting anything to your investors, you're not making money, and the property's suffering. So that part of it is the most important part. Yes, you have to have money to do the deal. Yes, you have to make sure it's in the right place and do the correct underwriting, but you have it at this point. So you have to manage it and make
Hmm.
sure that everything's happening. I mean, things happen all the time. And if you think that your property is going to be perfect for 5 years, okay, let's just talk for 5 minutes because I can tell you every property that I've been a part of has had something happen to it.
Yeah.
And it's how you handle it, how you can bounce back. So that asset management role is so important. And you have to find a team that you really understand their asset management. You understand that they're doing a good job and that you can trust them. And that is so important when you're looking for a team who's managing.
Yeah. It's operations. It's
Yeah, oh
it's
yeah.
pretty much. I mean, it can be 24 around the clock.
Oh yeah.
So, so you invested in those deals in the syndications.
Mhm.
What happened next? I think you joined a particular group,
I
and
did.
how
I
did you
did.
get to that group after? Was that who you invested with first?
No, it's not who I invested with first, but it was my first deal as a general partner. And I had joined a team. Now, I'm very pushy. So if you've ever met me and you've seen me in person, I'm super pushy and aggressive, which
Mhm.
is probably not what you would think. But hey, if I do it with a smile, then maybe it's not as bad. But my husband, complete opposite. So he would tell me, he's like, okay, these people, maybe we should go talk to them. But then he would never do it. So I was like, fine, I'm just gonna walk up to these people and say, hey, I've been watching you guys for a while. I like what you're doing. I can raise money. You need me on your team.
Perfect.
And they're
Direct.
like,
Here's the offer.
they're like, who are you? Like, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna be perfect for you.
How'd it go?
So I mean, they were a little hesitant, of course. I mean, as anyone should be, but they brought me in when other people wouldn't, which I'm so thankful for.
Yeah.
And a team that's going to let you learn alongside of them, huge. It's a huge opportunity. So my first deal, I raised 350,000, maybe somewhere between 300 and 350,000 in about a week,
Nice.
which pretty good for your first raise,
Yep.
especially when it's from friends and family. So that was exciting. That was a good first start for me, and that was on a 32 unit in North Carolina.
Super cool.
So small.
Were you doing this full time at that point?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So from with your you and your husband, it
Yeah.
was you had exited
I had left
your.
the hospital. I had left the hospital. I was doing this full time now at this point. My husband is he still owns his landscape earth moving business with his brother, so he couldn't leave because they own it.
Mhm.
They're doing all of that.
Yep.
So he couldn't leave his job. So I could, leaving a hospital position that was easier.
Yeah.
So
So you went in, and that makes perfect sense. You went in,
I went in
head
all.
first, kind of
Oh
spearheaded
yes.
it, and that's cool because I mean you were making the most out of it too, right? So you joined
Oh
this
yeah.
group. Did you? Is that where you're doing some of the asset management, or did you go into kind of an investor
No,
relations role there?
I tried, but it was more like I had no experience. So it was I had no business doing it. And so that was good. I got to learn, I got to see what they were doing because they were very good at that.
Hmm.
And they are very good at that. And so it's good to be able to learn from other people, be able to see it, but it's not me. I don't live there. I don't live in North Carolina, so I
Yeah,
wasn't going to drive or fly every week or month or
pretty
time when you need
much.
to go see it.
Got to see it. Yep.
That wasn't going to happen. But you really have to trust that the team is going to be able to communicate with you.
Hmm. So what did you end up doing? If it wasn't.
So kept raising. I kept raising for other deals and I kept doing more of investor communication. I was really good at bringing people through the portal, bringing people through their investments. I mean, when you're working in nursing, this is kind of what you're doing. You're
Hmm.
building that trust and rapport with your patients on a daily basis. I just didn't put two and two together that it's basically the same thing as
Same
capital
thing.
raising. So when you're talking to investors, you're getting to what is really keeping them up at night. What
Hmm.
is their issue? What is the problem that you can help them with? But it's not. like the hospital where they're just trying to get out of there, get back to their daily life.
Right.
This is, hey, let's really change your financial literacy and let's change where your finances are going.
You
So
must have
that
learned
was
a
my
l
big
you
switch.
must have, just like you did, you must have had a lot of those aha moments to be like, "Oh, it's just like that,"
That,
right?
yes. I
Um,
feel like everyone's like moving and like they understand this, and it's like it was an aha moment like a day every day. So
what were some of
I'm
them? I'm really
constantly learning.
curious.
What'd you say?
What were some of those aha moments? I mean, the parallels all over the place, like, customer service, patient care,
Yes.
walking through the pipeline, through things. Like, what were some of those aha moments for you?
But first, my first investor was my mother-in-law. And so like going through the whole process of her losing her husband, then getting into real estate, trying to understand passive income when you've never done that before, and being able to sit down at her level and teach her, even though I'm kind of still teaching myself,
Mhm,
that was the same feeling as when I was in the hospital.
mhm.
So that was my first aha moment that, okay, I need to be in the relationship business, not
Yeah.
in the let me manage when the property is
Execute the
going to be
business
doing something.
plan.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
Exactly. See, the words couldn't even do that one.
right.
But that's one example. And then every investor call, every time you're helping someone, it is a different conversation.
Mhm.
And sometimes we get to a 45-hour conversation where we're just learning about each other's lives. And that's important too. It's all about the relationship. And that's what I was doing every single day at the hospital.
Yeah.
And that was that. So glad I finally found that connection. Wish I would have done that from the beginning.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah, you have to find your path though, right? It definitely helps to see the different roles and what they do because
yes.
that lets you kind of show where you can, like you had those ahas, like, oh, I have done this someplace else. This makes sense for me to go there and kind of make the mapping. And in a real way, like you're talking about, like some people want to get, I mean, people want to get out of the hospital, of course.
Hmm.
But the problems are real too. It may not
Yeah.
be that physical pain, but a lot of people with that emotional, like problem to be solved, right?
Right. And you're trying to find that problem, and that is like key in nursing is you're trying to critical think. That is what you're doing every second with your patients. You're trying to think kind of what's going on with their signs and symptoms, and then trying to come to a solution from there. And that's kind of what I'm doing in real estate. I'm talking to these investors and I'm trying to figure out, based on my questions,
Hmm.
what is their actual problem. I mean, no one's going to say, my problem that I
Right.
don't,
Yeah.
sleep at night with is, so no one's going to tell me that, or they're not going to tell me my wife will never let me give you this money. So
Right.
like, you're talking to the wrong person. They're never going to tell me that.
Hmm.
So you have to build up that moment until they actually tell you what you need to know. And then
Yeah.
I'll help you even further.
If only they served it to you on a silver platter, Maria.
Wouldn't that be great? It'd be so fun. But it would take out the excitement. It's like a game.
I
We'll
agree.
figure
I
it out.
agree. And I think the moment that you really realize that you have to love people and kind of bring it that way versus transactions, because there's quote unquote a goal in mind. The moment you realize that you just have to love on people and help them out, then I think just the world shifts for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, notice I never said underwriting. That's not me. I knew that going into it. I was not the underwriter. Never did I try. I got where I needed. I knew the little bits that I needed to know, and that was good enough.
Totally.
So,
I mean,
did not need
there's
to try that one.
actuaries and analysts for that stuff. I
It's like
understand.
not my thing. So, that one I knew going into it. Okay, that's
But you
fine.
found it. But you found it.
Yes.
So you give me an approximation. How many investors, how many people did you end up working with? Is it
Well, I mean, I used to work with a lot of investors. So whether they were from other capital raisers or our own investors, I was helping with Cash Flow Portal. It's not a hard platform. I love it. It's the one I would use that you're using right now. It's the one I would use all the time.
mhm,
But it's still different.
Hmm.
You're putting your credit card information, you're putting your bank information, you're putting things somewhere. So that's a difficult thing to do. So I think I've probably worked with somewhere over 600 investors
Awesome.
to
Yeah.
get them to that moment where they're actually signing the documents. Now,
Yeah.
they might not all be mine, but I've helped them get to where they are.
Yeah.
And it's huge. When you start to think about it, you're like, oh, wow,
It
talked a lot on
is.
the phone.
And the amount of people that you've talked to even before that, like you said, getting to that point is a lot of education. It's a lot of
Oh, yeah.
understanding. And so there's,
Hmm.
you know, I don't know, five
Cold calling. Like,
times.
you
Yeah.
have a lot of those conversations, and sometimes it's one conversation. Yes, that's wonderful. We would love it to just be a 15-minute conversation and then they're in your portal and everything's, hunky dory. But no way, that's not going to happen. I know there was
No.
one investor, I think it took me 2 years to get them to invest. I was like, okay. But that day, it's a big day.
Yes,
Very
definitely.
happy.
What you do you find what kind of patterns did you end up seeing? I mean, so that's huge sample set, so to speak,
Hmm.
to have talked to a lot of people. Do you find that many of the same kind of fears and goals, those kinds of
Yeah.
things are pretty much very, very similar? Like what were
Yeah,
some of those things?
across the board, everyone wants to spend more time with their family, more time at home, and less time working, less time
Hmm.
at the office. So that's really the biggest one. And then you can tailor it to whatever industry that you're looking into. I mean, healthcare is really where I go to the most because I know those healthcare employees. I know how many hours they're working, and I know that feeling and that tear that they have to work so many hours away from their family.
Yeah.
So like that one, it makes sense to me. When you go into another, like I'm not a tech person, so like I don't know that side that you do as well, but I do know, you know, there might be something that keeps them up. And I let me do some type of digging and see if I can really start to understand what is really important. But most of them are entrepreneurs or they're starting their own business, so I can do that too. You just
Hmm.
kind of figure out what is really problematic for them and how you can help them. It might not be anything related to what you think, but you never know.
Yeah, it's true. You never know. But name some of those. I mean, one of the things that I ended up finding is, the reason why people say, like I help doctors, lawyers, engineers, whatever, like the high
Mhm.
income person. I mean, it's because a lot of those issues end up being the same thing. I mean, you mentioned and goals for that matter, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, that's just a skill they have, a role they have. But a lot of the desires are all human based. It might be you might
Yeah,
have to find the right one,
for
but
sure.
kind of name some of those that you've have picked up from your healthcare professionals, because
For sure.
I you're gonna name a couple and I'll be like, it's just like that one, it's just like
Just like
that one, just like that
it's
one. You know
just
what I mean?
hmm one of them is they've like for physicians, for example, they've paid so much to go to school
Mm-hmm.
that it takes them until they're about in their late 50s, early 60s, to the point where they're at the peak of their level
Wow.
in the hospital. But until then, they are a slave to that hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Bad choice of words, but they are tied to that hospital. They
Yeah.
can't come out of it. And that's what is so difficult, that those hours, that time that they're away is dictated by that hospital. And I would love to give them more opportunities to maybe try something different, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe not have to be at that hospital if that's what they want. If they want to go into private, if they want to go into maybe half time, part time of time at the hospital, then time at home, like that's something I can do because I know that if I can get them more income that they can pay off that debt, or they can get to that point of their career quicker,
Yeah.
then it's so much better off for them. Now, how many people can say that that is an issue for them? Well, of course, there's so many. Like attorneys, they've paid so much for schooling. Anyone who's paid for schooling
Sure.
understands that debt, that weighing on you. So it can really be flipped to so many different industries. If you think of like commission based industries,
Mm-hmm.
those are a lot more difficult because you can't predict when they're getting their income. So that would work for someone like who needs a fund, because that fund can give you predictable income on a monthly basis. That's exciting. So I'm going to look for people who maybe don't have predictable income,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to talk about predictable income, and
Yeah.
that's what's going to bridge that gap for me.
Yeah. Let's pivot to that in just a second because
Yeah.
I think we've talked about so many things that builds up perfectly for that. Um, you know, but what you're really talking about is for those doctors, for those healthcare
Hmm.
professionals being tied to one thing, like the they want more that freedom of time, right?
Hmm.
Which is really, really it. And if you have more income, more reliable income, then it becomes you get optionality. You don't think you have a
Correct.
single source,
Correct.
right? And I know what you were saying, maybe using the word slave to the hospital, that phrasing
I
isn't the
know.
best, but the reality of the situation was kind of a
True.
wake up call that you had too when you had started real estate. And so um,
Yeah.
getting that reality check is like, hey, is this the route that we continue on to go? So you get to
Hmm.
use your healthcare brain too and help to solve that pain, right? And so, you know, building the narrative here, building the story, kind of your investing career. You didn't want to, you felt the having to wait 10, 11, 12, 14 months to get your first paycheck. So this was kind of
Hmm.
that learning took you to a lot of where you are now too. So
Yes.
you're talking about consistent monthly income versus waiting 14 months and maybe not getting it.
Right.
So what did you end up finding? What did you end up finding instead? What are you doing now that made you take all those learnings to be like, that and instead of doing something like syndications, funds makes more sense. And just quickly to lay the foundation here for anyone who's new, syndications versus funds um, and how does that help to make more reliable and consistent income?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of research into the best way to say this, and I've seen some good points. So I'm going to use this as my first example. It's like you have income buckets. So if you have three income buckets, your first one is your active income from your W-2. Your second one is your passive, but more quick passive. So monthly passive income. You're not growing your wealth, but it's money that you can use right now. That's a fund. And then your third bucket is your like legacy building income. That's income that's long term, kind of like multifamily real estate. It's going to take about 5 or 6 years to get your returns. But when you get those returns, you are doubling, tripling your investment.
Sure.
So if you think about those three buckets, I was looking at mine saying, okay, I've got a lot in that bucket three. So I've got a lot that I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
Then I've got some when I was working in the hospital, I've got some active income, but I don't have
In the middle.
bucket two. I don't
Yeah.
have that money that could be replacing what I'm paying in my on my mortgage, or that money that could I could be having great dinners with, or going out going to vacations with. I didn't have that. I didn't have that money. So that's kind of what made me want to go into funds.
So you were talking about three different buckets.
Hmm.
This is something we had talked about before. Can you just give me an overview? What is your three bucket theory
Okay,
about the
my
different
three
income?
buckets.
Yeah, talk to me about
So
this.
there's like three buckets of income. Bucket one is your W 2. So that's your active income, the income that is coming in regularly. We can put that one to the side. Bucket
Mhm.
two is your passive, but more fast passive. So passive that's coming to you monthly, or that's more of a consistent basis. That's kind of like our fund. And then bucket three is your legacy building. That
Mhm.
is syndications. That's what other type of real estate you're in. And that's money that's going to come years and years down the road. But that money is growing 2 or 3 times your initial investment. That's what I'm going to leave to my family. That one I'm kind of putting on the back burner, waiting for those to
Sure.
come into fruition. So I went and looked at all my buckets and I said, which one am I not filling right now? That's bucket two. I don't have that monthly consistent cash flow. That's what made me think I need to go into maybe a different route.
Mhm.
Now, I think to be a really great investor, you need to have some in every bucket. And I've got bucket three. I've got lots of syndications, lots of multifamily real estate going, and I love that. I'm so thankful for that. Don't need any more right now.
Mhm.
Now I need to go to something different.
Yeah, more income focused, and that's why they say
Yes.
cash flow is king. Cash is king. Cash flow is king.
Cash flow is king. I wish I could change
Exactly.
my family's mind on that one. Grew up
uh,
hearing that all the time. Cash is king.
Tell me about that, because I think other people have this misconception too. And I think that nuance is so important because you're really saying that income is the most important versus,
Right.
like you're talking about for this bucket strategies bucket thing, is that the longer term stuff that will 2 or 3x, I mean 3x or so, really opportunistic type of things, which is
Hmm.
how I've educated a lot of people on this channel, is waiting for that stuff to come, like new developments and all
Yeah,
things like
you're
that.
waiting. I mean, with new development, you're not getting that quick cash or that cash flow. So you've got to put that in bucket three. And then with bucket two, you really want that cash flow. And I grew up thinking cash is king. Cash is how we do everything. Let's pay in cash. But once you pay that cash, it's gone.
Hmm.
Like you aren't getting it anymore. And that's why I love the passive side of bucket two, because let's say you have $250,000 in your bank account.
Hmm.
I can, put a little cash here, a little cash there, and then my account is slowly going down. It looks like I have a lot of money, but eventually I'm going to go to zero.
Yep.
Now, if I put that money into a fund that's yielding 8, 9, 10% annualized, I could be bringing in $2,000 a month. Now, if
Okay.
I'm bringing in that $2,000 a month and I'm spending that, my cash flow, when I take out my investment, I still have that
Your
$250,000.
principal, right?
Yes. Oh, it's so exciting.
Yes. So it's definitely, and especially for the, the doctors, the healthcare professionals, people that are looking to replace their W-2 income, right? I
Hmm.
think things, and I did this too, investing in the syndications, because it's what we learn. It's like, oh, that makes
Right.
sense. So
Right.
go there, but wait a long time, much longer, and the excitement still is there to get those that first income, but nothing like um, other things that I have found today as well. Talk about the fund that you say you're raising for right now. Talk about,
Hmm.
like, what is that? How does that even work? What is a fund, Maria? What is in this fund? Kind of demystify it, and then we'll talk a little bit about how it works.
Right. So this fund, it acts like a bank. It's not the bank, but it acts like the bank. So we raise money and then we go and invest in smaller multifamily or flips, triple net, anything like that, and we will be getting monthly income back from that original investment. And we might have 3, 4, 5 properties in this fund that's getting you back your returns. So when you pay the bank back or the other parts of the investment back, you're actually paying those people back first. So we are being paid back first, which is awesome when it comes to this. So if something does go wrong, if the property goes wrong, we end up owning it in the end. So there's really not as much risk. I have to say as much because with every investment there is
Hmm.
risk, but there's not as much risk when you're investing like this. However, there's no multiplier, there's no tax saving help there, but that's why you have so much in the other buckets, the other areas of real estate. So this, you have to take it as a positive versus a negative. This one is heavy in the cash flow, heavy in those returns that are coming right to you right now. Little bit different than a syndication with multifamily. So our fund, you invest within 60 days, you're getting your first return of your cash flow.
Within 60 days, so
60
2 months.
days.
2 months versus 12, 13, 14 months.
Correct.
Cool. So it's income focus, but there's no tax benefits.
Correct.
Okay. But at
Yeah.
least that feels like you're talking about income today.
Right.
So
And if
while
you
you're
think about why you're getting that like that tax break, yes, it's wonderful with the legacy building income. I mean, when you get that huge check back, yes, you're going to need that depreciation to offset capital gains. That makes sense. This one, not so much. And that's why it makes so much sense to have capital, to have that capital over in building that wealth for you. You need depreciation there. Not saying you don't love depreciation.
mhm.
But this is another side that you might want. That's the positives versus the negatives of investing in a fund.
Okay, so fund is that it's just entity holds all these
Mhm.
different types of properties. What kind of properties are in this fund?
Well, it's just whatever we have. We have a few people that we've been vetting for the last few weeks, and we've known them for a while. And they've been in this for one, for example, has been in this since 2001 that they've been flipping. So we've chosen people who understand this, who've been doing this for a while, and that we can know, like, and trust as well.
Totally.
So we'll pick people who are flipping, who are doing maybe smaller real estate, more consistent, maybe like a Starbucks, it's a triple net, something like that. So we'll have that consistent cash flow, something that can be consistent. And they might not be selling it for a while. Might be a few years, 10, 20, 30 years before they sell it. But you're still getting that consistent money back.
Got it. So you're loaning,
Hmm.
you and the team are loaning on these properties. So
Yep.
so it's basically a debt fund.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
So loaning on the different properties, and that's why you're saying like the bank, because the
Yes.
bank will loan out to other places and they'll end
And
up
then the
paying
bank
back
gets
to the
paid
fund.
back first. So if you think about it that way, I mean, that's pretty exciting.
It is pretty cool. Do you know if you guys are, is it like taking first, like
We do.
what type of lien
Yes.
positions?
So we have first position, which is nice. So that is kind of how we've negotiated the subscription agreement, and that was important to us. So it's important to our investors. It's important to have that ability to make sure that our investors are having a safer investment.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit in the details, but the reason why I ask is because, thinking about it's like, okay, Maria, you're telling me there's this fund and properties, but what
Right.
makes this any more or less riskier versus it in, multiple properties here versus syndication where it might be just one that I'm investing in,
Right.
right? And so the lean position being showing the amount of risk that's actually being taken. If you're in first position, there's a lot less risk.
Right. And
Mhm.
it helps so much to be in less risk position, but also you want to have things that are maybe more risky. Like that's why you have real estate in other forms of assets. So if you're growing your wealth, cool. That's okay to be not in the first position, but it's nicer to have some investments that are going to do that. That's probably why there's no multiple on your investment because it's more consistent and it's a shorter timeline. So
Mhm.
that one is less risky when it comes to your risk assessment. It's, it's not so much less risky than going to Las Vegas and putting all of it on red. So like, it's so much better than that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So, um, is this 50,000 minimum as well, pretty
50,000
standard?
minimum. Yep. And there's different tiers. So whether you're putting 50,000 or a million, you could get anywhere from 8 to 9 to 10% annualized return on your investment. That would be coming monthly in as
Hmm.
cash flow.
Within 60 days,
Mhm.
hold time, how long the cash has to be invested for
For
before
a
it can
year.
be liquid?
And then you'll give us about 60 days notice, just to make sure that there's money to give back to you. And
Hmm.
then, or you can keep it in the fund. You can keep it there, or you can take it out.
Got it. So if someone invests the 100,000 as an example, they'll start getting returns on month three, or is it the
Mhm.
yeah start
Month three.
of month three? 60 days has passed. They'll be making that 8, 9, 10%
Hmm.
annualized
Hmm.
based on the 50K or a million, right?
Yes.
Depending on
Yeah.
that tranche, that level of investment, and then has to stay in up to month. I
About a
guess
year. Yeah.
a year.
So if you're wanting to exit, just give us that 60 days notice so that we can make sure that you get your investment back. And so it's really just in a lockup of a year, which is different than when you're thinking of your money being in multifamily or syndication. I mean, that's 5, 6 years.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot more agility that you can
Yeah.
do with your money in funds. I think that's probably a good word to use versus that lockup period of that 5 years or so. But the buckets one, I think, is a really good one to think about. Tell me a little bit about. So this isn't the first group you've worked with. This is
Right.
um, what are you doing in the current role that you're in, and what is that role, and what else are you trying to do here? I mean, this is I think this is fairly new, a newer
Yeah.
role, and it's probably pretty exciting. What kind of things do you have in mind here?
I am really right now focused on investor relations and getting people to understand how important it is to invest in bucket two. I'm going to keep using that analogy because I think it makes the most sense.
Totally.
But that is where I'm focused right now, is to really explain the different types of how you can diversify your assets and with staying within real estate, because obviously I love it, you love it, I want to talk about it all the time. So I want to
Yeah.
make sure people are diversifying, but also understanding the different sides of real estate. So that's where I'll be. My goal is to help more, it is women, but more investors understand financial literacy. I
Mhm.
mean, before I got into real estate at all, I honestly thought you could only invest in the stock market.
Wow.
'Cause that's all I heard. I didn't know that you could buy an apartment. That was
Hmm.
so new to me to hear all of that. So I want financial literacy to be more widely available. And it's sad that it's not,
Yeah.
but I want it to be the forefront of my teachings and my education, so that you're not just feeling like I'm taking your money, but that you're also learning and that you're investing and it's exciting and you're thrilled to be doing this.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I think the education component is so massive. Um,
So important.
uh, oh man, like I could go on this for a bit, and well, I do on this podcast, but I'll save that for a different episode. Go check out those other ones. Um, But you're also talking about not only helping, healthcare, but talking about other people who have similar challenges as well. But you used to do something, and I've seen you a lot do this on social. You go all over the place networking. Absolutely love
Mhm.
seeing that. We have a lot of friends in common, a lot of mutual acquaintances too. Um, but you have worked with different groups for women too. Is that something you're
Yeah.
still doing?
Yes, women investing is so important to me. And going back to that, like, first time, that first one of those first aha moments with a group of women, and they all wanted their husbands to make the financial decisions for them. And that was gut wrenching to me, because
Mm,
I want everyone to have a say. Not, it doesn't have to be one person or another. I want everyone to understand what's going on with their finances. So when I started to hear that we always defaulted to other people, which, I mean,
mhm.
I did. I defaulted to my family. And then when I got married, defaulted to my husband. I
Yeah,
mean, I fell into that trap as much as the rest of us. So I really want to help educate more people, especially women, who can start to understand where their investments are going, but then also know they don't have to stay in a relationship or stay in a situation because someone is managing their finances.
sure.
You can do anything. You are so powerful and strong that you can understand real estate. It's not difficult. I
I
mean, I
agree.
started with a 3x5 index card. So if I
Yeah.
started there, I knew nothing. And then now I have 1,500 units as a general partner, opening a fund. And that was in 3 years. I mean, anyone can do this.
Yeah, it's you know, I I think it's so important to, everyone will people will connect with someone else who they, like you said, know, like, and trust, but
Yep.
also who has gone through a similar thing that can communicate that message so that it resonates with someone. And
100%.
I think, that's kind of the clearest way that I can communicate that, because I don't really understand the same challenges that, one would have with certain investing. And I
Yeah.
think about it, I'm like, well, just like you would go walk up to someone and be like, you need me on your team. It's like, we'll go do it. Like what's the challenge? But we all have limiting beliefs in a lot of ways too. So,
Oh, yeah.
I got to have empathy for that. Definitely. I sure know I have worked through a lot too.
And it's
Um,
it's something you work through all the time,
yeah,
and that's why I've loved this. I've loved being able to learn, and I learn something every day, whether
yeah.
it's from an investor or from any course that I'm in or any group that I'm in. I'm learning something every day. I had an investor call one time where I had said something and he just laughed at me for probably like 30 seconds. I'm like, "Why?" I
Hmm.
was like, "Why are
Yeah.
you laughing?" And he's like, "You're really good at R&D." And D. And I said, "Okay, research and
Yeah.
development. Okay, thanks." And he goes, "No, rip off and duplicate." I was like, "Oh
Uh,
my gosh."
yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the coolest thing ever. I'm gonna jot that one down for the next time. But you never know when you're gonna learn something or when you're gonna connect with someone. And that's why you just have to be so into what you're doing and so into helping people and so into learning more. And if you're gonna stay stagnant and not want to progress and learn, you're not going to be able to move forward. If I had stopped where I was at, I wouldn't even know about funds,
Yeah.
wouldn't even be able to continue here. So it's so important to be able to continue learning, continue the conversations, continue growing.
Yeah. Growth mindset is key for sure. I do
Yeah.
have to ask, this is something that just kind of came to mind when you were talking about this. I think we should empower everyone, like period,
Yes.
point blank. If you want it and you have the capability, which we all do, then go for it. How has it strengthened relationship with you and your family over time, knowing that, you know, kind of like taking more ownership for your own investing? Because there are, I imagine, there's a lot of women that you talk to who it helps to see the world in different eyes, right?
Hmm.
But also strengthens a relationship too because there's more decision making, more confidence
Right.
as well. You find that that strengthens relationships a lot.
Yes. I wish I had a better example of this, but I don't because my family does not invest with me. So my personal immediate family does not invest. They still haven't seen the light that I have seen and that I'm following. So they have it. So it is difficult. And I wish I had that been able to, yes, now they get it. And that's
Right.
another example. No, I don't. But
Yeah.
these conversations have opened up more abilities and people are now trusting more because they're seeing it, they're experiencing it, they're seeing where I'm coming from, they're seeing me learn about this. And that's helping my conversations with people. I wish more people from my circle or my old circles were jumping on board with me, but they weren't. So I had to go find more circles to be a part of.
Yeah.
And that's where I met people like you, people who I'm talking to who's excited about real
Hmm.
estate. It's excited about learning more and excited about furthering their financial knowledge. I mean, that's huge. But if you're stuck in that limiting belief or that mindset that, hey, I actually probably can't do this, you're never going to proceed. You're never going to move forward.
And I think just to kind of top that one off from my perspective is I think what's really cool is that, so you're working with Guthrie's, right, at
Hmm.
Wealth
Hmm.
Mission Group. And there are other people I can think of as well where, you get there and you see, yes, they're business focused, income focused,
Right.
wealth focused, but it doesn't stop there. You meet these a lot of people and they're like, let's do travel, let's take care of our health, let's give
Right.
back, and those kinds of things. And so you end up coming for one thing, how do I make more money? But you find out that you can up level so many other things about
Oh
your
my
life
gosh.
too.
So true. I mean, I love working with the Guthries. They don't need this, they don't need another thing. They're
Yeah.
good. They could invest, be passive, and be done. They
Yeah.
don't need to do this. They do it because they want to. And they do it because they want to educate, they want to help, and they want to bring more people alongside of them. And that's a value that I wanted to work with. I wanted to work with a team that's going to do that, that's going to help me. And if you don't have to do this, then you're really going to be someone who's a great teacher. And that's exciting to me. It's
Hmm.
so different from maybe other people I've met or other situations I've been a part of. I want to be with someone who wants to do this.
What do you want to accomplish in the next 12 months?
Oh, we want to raise 25 million with this fund. That's what we want to do. Year one.
Perfect.
We're doing it.
Cool. Um, Maria, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Want to make sure we get you out right on time. I'm sure you have places to be today too, and people to talk to, people to help
Of
out
course.
with.
Of course.
And where can people find you?
They can go to linkwithmaria.com. And you can find all of my links, my social media is there. It'll be the easiest place to connect with me. And you'll probably even find this recording there too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Maria. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Path to Passive. We love connecting with our listeners and those on the path to architecting their wealth and improving their lives. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see in future episodes. Get in touch with us through email or Instagram. See you next week for a new episode.